emergency for the first time in about...
This is Jim, and
Receiving this message. We are Ken Jennings and John Roderick. We speak to you from our present, which we can only assume is your distant past, the turbulent time that was the early 21st century.
Fearing the great cataclysm that will surely befall our civilization, we began this monumental reference of strange and obscure human knowledge. These recordings represent our attempt to compile and preserve wonders and esoterica that would otherwise be lost.
So whether you're listening from an advanced civilization or have just reinvented the technology to decrypt our transmissions, this is our legacy to you.
This is our time capsule. This is the Omnibus. You have accessed entry 1008.IS4713, certificate number 52246. Pulsars, discovery of. This is a new thing we're trying out here on the Omnibus.
Yeah, I'm comma crazy now.
These comma.
I'll put a comma in anything. I don't
titles.
care. I'm going to go put a comma in my email address and my license plate. I don't care if it breaks a database somewhere.
Omnibus, intransigent host of.
Omnibus, comma, annoyed listeners of. On a scale of 1 to 10, John, how worried would you say you are about Beetlejuice?
I don't want to say it 2 more times.
Are you worried about him showing up?
Could be.
And doing crazy Calypso numbers in here in the bunker with us?
I kind of want it. I kind of don't.
I don't want that at all.
I don't want anybody to reach into my eyes and pull them out and reach into my mouth and pull my mouth out.
I mean, are you worried about Beetlejuice at the end of the movie trapped in that waiting room forever?
No,
or
he
do you think
that.
he had it coming?
Yeah. Are you? Do you mean? Am I worried about Beetlejuice?
Yes. Are you worried about
distant star formation?
The red giant star?
I don't think I need to be. Is this something that you can add to my anxiety file? A new thing that I should be worried about?
Yes.
Beetlejuice?
Do you not have enough to be worried about in these challenging times?
I've been sort of managing my anxiety a little bit in that every day there is at least an hour that goes by where I don't feel like I'm going to die from a massive, collapsing, viral infection.
Last night, I think I had my first dream set in a post-COVID world.
Really?
Like in the dream, things were happening that acknowledged quarantine and stuff. Because usually in your dreams, you're in 3rd grade or you're at your grandma's house or you're in a flying lighthouse or whatever. But last night I had a dream where I was actually thinking, we can't go out to eat.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, now we're all infected.
Last night I had the weirdest dream.
Let's add an hour to the show and go into it.
I was with Colin Malloy, whom I'm never with.
It's not that weird.
And the fictional character, I guess I was with Allison Janney.
But was she C.J. Craig?
She was
from
in the
West
role
Wing?
of C.J. Craig, but I knew her to be Allison Janney.
That's weird.
And
that she would stay in character.
And the 3 of us were trying to get a reservation at a restaurant.
So you're having a pre-COVID dream about C.J. Craig.
C.J. Craig and Colin Malloy, I don't invite him into my dreams very often. I might invite him to lunch.
Do you feel like maybe he was doing some kind of Inception-style assault on your dreams last night?
He does that sometimes.
Does Allison Janney ever join him?
Yeah, she was the new element.
She's the wild card here.
Colin slides into my DMs all the time, and I'm like, get out of my DMs. But she's never done.
Here's the reason to be worried about Beetlejuice. It's getting a little bit dimmer.
Beetlejuice is?
Yes.
How far is Beetlejuice from us?
Beetlejuice is over 600 light years away.
So
it's one of the brighter stars in Orion, the reddish one.
Yeah. But not the brightest star in Orion.
Rigel's brighter.
Right. And that was recently a New York Times crossword puzzle.
Is that right? Making plans for Rigel?
So Beetlejuice, and we've long settled on the pronunciation of that as Beetlejuice rather than Beetlejuice.
I mean, it comes from what does it come from? It probably comes from Arabic, right? I think people usually say Beetlejuice or Betelgeuse.
Yeah.
It looks like
Beetlejuice.
you want it to be the hard G. So Merriam-Webster's prefers Beetlejuice.
Huh.
They will allow Beetlejuice
But not Beetlejuice.
but they'll cock their head a little if you say Beetle or Beetlejuice.
I'll cock my head a little at that too.
Like it's a star. It's not a star anymore. It's a Star of David.
So it's X number of 100 light years away.
600. Yeah, we're seeing. If you look up in the sky, you're seeing Beetlejuice from 600 years ago.
And so it's starting to dim as a result of space clouds, or it's starting to dim because something happened 600 light years ago, or 600 years ago that we're just starting to see evidence of.
Well, we're definitely whatever we're seeing is 600 years old. There's no way to get a quicker view of Beetlejuice than what we see in the sky.
Well, I know, but couldn't the dimming be happening because something happened 300 years ago in between
Closer
us?
to us. The Beetlejuice is getting close to the end of its life cycle.
Oh.
As a red giant, it's probably within.
Cue sad violin music.
It's fine. Beetlejuice is about 9 million years old. It's had a good life.
Oh, okay.
And
I don't feel so bad.
And according to some estimates, it's probably about 100,000 years from going out, and it'll go out with a bang.
100,000 years? That's not very long in star terms.
No. It's long in terms of, how long you try and get your kids out of the car, for example.
Oh, right.
But no, in star terms, it's very close to the end of its life. And when it dimmed appreciably last year, a lot of people thought, Elizabeth, this is it. This is a big one.
Wait, it dimmed appreciably within the space of a year?
Yeah.
At the beginning of the year, Beetlejuice was a certain magnitude of brightness, and by the end of the year, it was measurably lower.
To be fair, that happened to me in 2019 as well.
Boy, it happens to me every 6 hours.
And the question becomes, is something happening to the star, or is, as you say, something murking our view of Beetlejuice? Because we know that it's close to going supernova, and we're very excited because, here on Earth, we have not seen a good supernova in centuries and centuries.
Since that Oasis record.
Yeah, that's the only kind of supernova I like, is a champagne supernova.
If you are 600 light years away.
That's a big if, but I'll allow it.
Let's say you and I were 600 light years away.
From each other?
Now
that's social distancing.
And I exploded.
Okay.
Would that put you at risk if I were a red giant?
No. Nothing bad will happen to us beyond a nice, pretty light show.
It's not a thing where we're going to look up at this sky, we're going to see it dim, then the next day it's going to be a bright flash,
yes.
And then 10 days later we're going to get covered with like whipped cream.
Yeah, little bits
Space
of
cream.
Little bits of Beetlejuice aliens. No, we're going to be fine.
Okay.
Jor-El does not need to testify to the Kryptonian Council.
Oh, I was really worried there for a second.
And it turns out that the best data we have is that the surface temperature of Beetlejuice does not appear to have changed that much given the dimming, which probably means that Beetlejuice is just a little dusty. Beetlejuice needs Roomba-ing, like for whatever reason, something between us and them is dimming its light.
The giant blue, like Dr. Manhattan needs to take off his glasses and clean them on the shirt tail and put them back on.
The Legion of Superheroes needs to get the Sun Eater out of the way from between us and...
that's it.
That's the better nerd reference.
Sorry.
But at some point... Probably in the next few tens of thousands of years, Beetlejuice is going to blow up.
Okay.
It'll go supernova.
It's going to screw up Orion.
Yeah.
Maybe it'll make Orion look cooler.
Beetlejuice is like the upper, I think it's the star that's usually pictured as one of Orion's arms, like the higher of the two arms above the belt. So Orion Pictures would have to change its logo if it hadn't gone bankrupt in the early 90s.
I do feel that Orion could use a little bit of... I've always felt like Orion needed lower legs.
Orion doesn't look much like a hunter.
It doesn't really have a head.
Orion should be, the hourglass? The drapes?
Yeah, I feel like the kind of old-fashioned coffee maker.
Cocktail shaker?
What are those coffee makers that you put on the stove that kind of have this Orion shape?
It does not have a head, which is the main problem.
Yeah, but also no legs.
All the constellations are bad. Like Ursa Major is supposed to have a long tail. And as Alaskans know, there's no kind of bear that has a long tail.
Oh, the long-tailed bear. The Alaska-tailed bear.
It's half bear, half kinkajou. When it goes nova, that's a bit of a choose-your-own-adventure for Beetlejuice.
Mm-hmm. You've said it now 3 times.
Oh, no. Is it cumulative or do you have to say it back-to-back?
I think it must be back-to-back. Otherwise, every astronomer in the world would have a Beetlejuice in his house.
Yes, unless they're just careful and only mention it. Maybe they start calling it that one star, like actors who can't say Macbeth.
Maybe they say Beetlejuice, and that doesn't affect it.
That's why you've never seen him. You're mispronouncing it. You're going to see the German dubbed version of Beetlejuice. If Beetlejuice once it goes nova, what remains at its core is about 2 to 3 times the mass of our sun. Well, actually, let's put it this way. If it's greater than 3 times the mass of our sun, Beetlejuice will become a black hole.
Oh, that's exciting.
So Orion will be holding a black hole.
So Beetlejuice right now is much larger than our sun.
It's huge. Like if Beetlejuice were our sun, I think like everything up until Jupiter or something would be like within the radius of the sun.
But isn't it just a big gassy mass? Is it also has it, in addition to being a big diffuse gas ball, it's also got a lot more mass than our tiny little wimpy sun. Yes. And so how much gets ejected in the supernova will determine this. If it, on the other hand, it's less than 3 solar masses, it will between 2 and 3 solar masses, it will turn into a neutron star, which means it'll have the mass of a sun, but in a super small, dense form. Imagine compressing all the mass of our sun, or something bigger than our sun, in fact, down to the city limits of Seattle, for example. That would give you the density of a neutron star. I'm just burning, doing the neutron dance. Well, you would burn if you did the neutron dance. The atoms have gotten so close together, compressed by that gravity, that the neutrons are in effect touching as far as subatomic particles can touch. And if you were to get slammed into the neutron star, your atoms would immediately come apart. So now if we were here on Earth and our sun was compacted into a neutron star, how would that change life here? It wouldn't matter. The mass is the same, so all of the gravitational forces are the same. Like the Earth's orbit wouldn't change. But would it emit more energy? It would no longer emit the visible light we all love. Oh, as a neutron star, or at least not so much. Would Earth become an ice planet Hoth? Yeah, even Hoth appears to have a sun. They have daylight, and then night when you have to crawl into your tauntaun. Oh, you're saying a neutron star would not emit light? A neutron star would emit stuff, but some kind of heat. But I think a lot of that has been blown off in the supernova. And it's like neutron stars are weird. Like because of their great density, basically, I don't know, what's the best way to express this? Like a sugar cube. Let's say you had a sugar cube sized block of neutron star right now, it would weigh the same as Mount Everest. So you probably couldn't. I don't have a sense of how much Mount Everest weighs, but more than a sugar cube. 900 pyramids of Giza or something. Oh. You don't want to drop it into your I know coffee. That weighs. That we can all picture, of course. That famous thing we've all tried to bench. So it's hyper dense, but I get confused by gravity and light. And because I don't know whether light is a particle or a wave. Who does know anymore in these uncertain times? So I'm not sure at the point at which a star becomes so dense that it no longer lets light escape, but it isn't yet a black hole. So a black hole literally would let nothing escape. Right. A neutron star is dense enough that it can bend light around it. If you were standing next to a neutron star and I was on the other side doing social distancing and I waved to you, you could see me because the light would get bent around the surface of the thing. But I wouldn't be able to see the neutron star. Yeah, I guess not, if the light's being bent around. In fact, this room could have a neutron star in it right now, and we would have no idea. How do we know it doesn't? It doesn't. It could be the size of a sugar cube. Weird. Well, the floor would collapse, probably. Yeah, I guess so. So it's a billion times Earth gravity. It's got crazily intensified magnetic fields. The matter's been packed in so thin that if you could tap it,
it's got like a smooth, solid surface. It would feel like steel, but 10 billion times harder and stronger than steel.
Steel already feels pretty hard and strong. I don't know if I could tell that it was 10,000 times harder and smoother.
And like a figure skater pulling in his or her or their arms and spinning faster, the fact that all the mass has been pulled in means this thing spins super fast. Yeah. Like a neutron star is spinning at like 43,000 times a second.
Whoa. Spinning at that speed, you wouldn't be able to tell that it was spinning. It would look like it was just...
What if you drew a dot on one point? You still think you can tell?
It would just look like a line. It would look like a line at that, right?
Yeah. What if you use the burst mode on your camera or the slow motion?
Still 42,000 times a second. The burst mode wouldn't be able to pick it up.
You're probably right about that.
How would you draw a dot on it in the first place?
That's tough.
There it is.
It's tough. Like whatever you tried to use would just get sucked into the neutron star, and suddenly your Crayola crayon is now a Crayola blip.
Well, you wouldn't even be able to see the neutron star to try and draw a dot on it because light would be bending around it.
Yeah, but
there's a lot here for me to unpack.
They behave. They're super weird matter. Like it's hard to imagine how they would behave, and a lot of the stuff about them are still mysterious to us.
Do we know any neutron stars? Can we point to one in the sky?
We can, although they don't have cool names that you would know of. That they don't emit enough. Like, as I'm saying, they emit radiation much less reliably and brightly than the stars that twinkle on us today. The messed up magnetic field means that some become magnetars, where they emit magnetic pulses. We don't understand the mechanism here. But
does Magnetar fight Godzilla?
Oh, yeah. Magnetar is going to... No, Godzilla will save us all against Magnetar. Magnetars have such a strong magnetic pulse that they would wipe your credit cards even if you were 100,000 miles away. Or if your wallet were. So don't leave your wallet there. We don't really understand why they emit. Some of them emit other wavelengths of light, from radio waves all the way up the spectrum to gamma waves. And we don't understand why. It has something to do with the strong magnetic field, which then can produce weird electrical fields. And it's very hard to model, but something about it means that they flash regular pulses of radio waves, gamma radiation, and other...
Are these pulsars?
And that's the kind of star that we call pulsars. John, do you know how many membership levels there are for folks who would like to support Omnibus financially on Patreon?
Between 6 and 10.
Close. There are 5.
All right.
Do you want to... Let's run down the perks. Because Because many people... donate to the show and enjoy some of these benefits.
I'm curious about this. What are the perks? Do we start at the bottom and go up, or the top and go down?
They're cumulative.
Oh, yeah. Start at the bottom.
Just like 12 Days of Christmas.
Not the bottom, but,
At the lobster person level of donation, you get probably one of the most meaningful, meatiest benefits, which is an additional episode of the Omnibus every month.
A great episode, by the way. One where we open viewer mail and are directed to either mistakes we've made, or we are praised to the high heavens for our quality program.
We call it the addenda, and it's a series of sequels to past shows. So if you don't listen to the addenda, it's like you've just watched Grease, but you're going to miss out on Grease 2, which is probably an even better movie. I don't know. It's
like you watched The Godfather 2, except rearranged into that ABC the television movie version of it, where it's chronological.
Yes, it's exactly like that. Then if you double your donation, then you get...
What are those people called? They're not lobster persons.
No, they're sentient aspen trees.
Oh, not people at all.
They get the bonus episode, but they also get the photo feed of images on the Patreon site.
Which you're always wandering around here taking pictures. What are you doing?
If people send us things, the show notes you and I use...
this Geiger counter here.
Pictures of us... just any kind of visual record of Omnibus related stuff.
That seems like a cool thing. And what is that level? The sentient aspen level?
Financially, what is it?
Yeah.
Those people donate $10 a month.
$10 a month.
Isn't that nice?
That's wonderful.
But they're getting, you're getting 10 podcasts a month. You're paying $1 per show.
$1 a show. I mean, if you think about how much it used to cost to go to the movies,
Back when
one time a month, it cost you at least that.
Podcasts are a pretty good bang for your buck when it comes to minutes of entertainment per cent.
Right.
If you double your donation to the Robot Alien Explorer tier, you get the video feed, you get the bonus episode, but you also get a copy of a set of omnibus show notes, personalized to you, signed by us. You're talking
about this copy right here in front of me, this one that I just wrote with my own hand?
You just recorded that. You and I will sign that, and we're going to send it to Sam or Rita or Meredith or somebody who listens to Omnibus.
This would be 100% unintelligible. What makes it great is that it's written on letters that we've received from other listeners, so that's pretty great.
I've had to start being careful as to what I use for the back of my...
Oh, wow.
Like the show we just recorded, it was recorded on the back of a transposed version of the Christmas carol Il est né le divin enfant that Dylan had to transpose to play on the trumpet last Christmas.
I wrote today's episode on the back of a letter that where the person that wrote me the letter or wrote us the letter in his signature says that he is a member of the sentient aspen tree colony level of Patreon support.
Wow, we are reseeding the earth.
It's just like,
we should make sure he doesn't have his credit card number on there or something.
Recapitulating. Well,
I'm always making sure I'm not using a bank statement now for writing.
It has his email and his phone number. I mean, we could call him right now, actually, this person.
At other ludicrously higher levels of donation, at the next level for Washing Bears, you get all those other benefits, the addenda episode, the photo feed, the show notes, but you also get to choose an omnibus topic.
Yes, the Washing Bears.
And
we've been doing a lot of fan-chosen topics.
Yeah,
lately.
We don't screw around. We move those right to the top of the queue.
Yep, that's cool.
And at an even more ridiculously high level of donation, we have the Omniversal Hypercoral, who get all of the aforementioned benefits, the addendum episode, the photo feed, the autograph show notes, the show topic of their choice, the tote bag, all of the above, but they also get... The challenge coin. But they also get a live video chat with you and me.
Now, we've yet to do one of these, but this is coming up this week, right? We're going to do our first video chat.
We have one on the calendar with somebody who actually was an Omniversal Hypercoral for the all winter. Not
our only Omniversal Hypercoral, but the only one that has so far opted for the video chat feature.
I think the first one who was in for a sufficient length of time,
right?
That we were like, oh, we need to do this chat.
How exciting! Well, I can't wait. I hope that this person is not. I hope that this Omniversal Hypercoral is not a super weird Hypercoral, because they can be weird.
I'm sure it'll be amazingly awkward.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I mean, you and I are both like a little weird to start with, so introduce a third element.
I don't enjoy teleconferencing, so I'm gonna put on a brave face.
I was supposed to watch a movie the other day, and I told a friend, and the friend was like, "Why don't you Zoom call me and we can watch it together?" I was like, "I would rather die than watch a movie with you over Zoom."
Are these your friendly fire co-podcasters wanting to do this?
No. Those guys would never want to do that. They're as awkward as anybody.
If any of these benefits seem to be of interest to you, and you enjoy Omnibus but have not yet become a Patreon supporter, why not treat yourself? Feel free to do so.
It's not that the barrier to entry is pretty low. You can support Omnibus and at whatever level it is that you're comfortable doing.
The addenda episode comes at $5 a month, roughly 50 cents a podcast.
But presuming that you've listened to this show for a while, or that you listen to it frequently, or maybe you just started listening a week ago, but you've been binge consuming it and have listened to 40 episodes in that time. You're
probably going mad in quarantine at this point.
Think about making a little contribution to the production of it, because it helps us quite a bit. Thank you.
Pulsar is a word you would not have heard before the late 1960s.
Really?
When they were discovered by an astronomer named Jocelyn Bell Burnell, then now Dame Susan Jocelyn Bell Burnell, then just Jocelyn Bell. She was raised in Northern Ireland. Her father was an architect, and he had designed one of the largest planetaria in Northern Ireland. I don't know how many there are.
So she's a legacy astronomer.
Well, her dad was an amateur astronomer who had astronomy books all over the house. But just the fact that he designed this planetarium doesn't mean he's an astronomer.
I see.
But it did mean she was hanging out at the planetarium a lot.
Right. With astronomers.
Right. And talking to astronomers and scientists. And apparently that's one thing that really sparked her interest. But she would go back to her school and tell them she loved science, and they would be like, no, unfortunately, it's the 1950s and you're a little girl.
Oh, you can't love science.
We have cooking and needlework for you.
Right.
And this
that was kind of a bad attitude for the late 50s. People were, I mean, we'd already had Mamie Eisenhower by then.
But this is Northern Ireland.
Yeah.
Think what the Irish are doing to their schoolgirls.
Sure.
Awful, awful things.
Even still.
Probably. And so her parents had to send her off to, they were Quakers. And they sent her off to a Quaker private school where she could actually get the education they thought she deserved, because she was a bright kid.
Mm-hmm.
Fast forward to the late 60s, she gets a degree at the University of Glasgow, where she's maybe one of a handful of women in the program, and starts to see the way all male spaces treat the few women who dare cross their boundaries. And it's not great. By the time she gets to Cambridge in the late 60s to try to get a doctorate, she is one of only 2 women in her whole program. And in 1967, her advisor, a Dr. Anthony Hewish, has her working on his own radio telescope that he has built in a field. He's taken 4 acres of windswept, rainy field near Cambridge University, and he's laid about 100 miles. Well, I say his grad students, Jocelyn Bell among them, is laying 100 miles of cable and copper wire to turn this whole field into a radio telescope to receive waves from space.
This 100% comports with my experience of rural England.
That no matter where you are traipsing,
there's some sort of wet, tweedy professor directing his grad students to lay a bunch of copper wire
with a cane.
And you're like, what are you guys doing? And they don't even know.
And then the police come from the end of Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Yeah, so she was in charge of not just helping set up this radio telescope, but just reading the miles and miles of chart paper that were produced by this. The field is now a receptor for the sky, and it's receiving noisy peaks and valleys. She's looking at a chart. She's not trying to see. Is
it detecting whether or not people are watching television in the surrounding villages?
She's like, this is a peak, which means it's Peaky Blinders. No, it's determining what the sky is doing. And on November 28th, 1967, she notices that there are these odd blips very regularly. These little squiggles are appearing in her chart. It's subtle, but you can see one every 1.3 seconds.
Did she immediately think that it was an alien intelligence trying to communicate with her?
I mean, that's what I would have assumed.
Me too.
What is the universe trying to tell me here?
Beep, 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 beep.
She thinks it's a mistake.
Oh.
She thinks...
Scientist.
But the more, she triple checks her work very carefully because she doesn't want to look dumb in front of her advisor.
Right.
And she becomes convinced that whatever this is, it's real. She takes it to Dr. Hewish and he says, no. It's just noise. This is dumb. There's nothing that would repeat every 1.3 seconds from space.
That's impossible, lass.
Yeah.
I cannot be.
He's Scottish now. And why not?
Well, she went to University of Glasgow.
Sure.
Right.
Maybe she taught him how to do a bad Glaswegian accent like you're demonstrating. And choose life, choose a career. But she insists to her advisor that this is real, continues to show him the data. Oh, you got your John Deere hat on now.
Yeah, I feel better. I'm ready.
Man of the soil.
If we're going to talk about space stuff, I want my tractor hat on.
Because you're going to talk about where they probed you.
Yeah.
Well, then you're going to like this. Hewish and Bell name their mysterious repeating sky squiggle LGM1, meaning Little Green Man 1.
Really? Oh, okay. So they're having fun with it.
Yeah. What if it's aliens? Yeah. She is able to confirm her intuition that this is a real deep space signal by finding a second case, a second similar signal, and then a third one, and then a fourth one.
That all are sending pulses in this kind of rapid succession?
Different intervals, but yes, an extremely reliable pulse. And I'm sure they're not being 100%, what's the word? Facetious when they call it Little Green Man 1. I mean, one of the reasons why people were and are listening to the sky is in the hopes that you hear some organized signal that might be coming from intelligent life.
And does this...
It's the Fermi paradox. Where are they?
Right. Does this... does the rate of the signal... is it a direct comportment with the speed that the body is orbiting?
Well, they don't know where it's coming from yet. In 1968, they publish in Nature, Hewish and his doctoral candidates, of which J. Bell is the first one listed, published in Nature magazine their article, Observation of a Rapidly Pulsating Radio Source. And up until now, nobody had, neutron stars did not exist. Nobody had proven, it was hypothetical that after a supernova, you'd get a dense core. Sometimes it would be dense enough to be a black hole, sometimes it wouldn't. But that was all just math and guesswork. This was the first time where anybody had suggested real world evidence for one of these super dense stars. And the headlines pick up on, when the popular press picks up on this idea of pulsating radio sources, they abbreviate that to Pulsar. So you would think it would be pulse plus star.
Sure, that's what I always thought it was.
But it appears to be pulsate plus radio. Radio only gets to add an R. It's a little weak.
I feel like it's a little weak.
It should be pulsarad?
It should be pulsing star. It should be pulsar. It should just mean pulsing star, not pulsing radio.
And you're leaving out the T to get more parity between pulse and star. If it was pulse star, or no, if it was pulse star, both words would be fully present.
If it was Polestar, then it would be measuring a different thing.
Polestar?
Because Polestar.
Oh, not Polestar, Polestar.
Polestar.
The hard U.
Right.
But that sounds like a synthetic fabric. Like
Polestar is like a rock concert promoter's trade magazine.
And it's Polestar, like
Polestar.
like Polaris?
No, like the poll tax.
Oh, I see. Isn't that pronounced the same?
Yeah,
but it's spelled differently. I see. So Jocelyn Bell becomes a bit of a celebrity, and because she's the woman co-author on this paper, she's a novelty. And unfortunately, if she was not already aware of what it was like to be a female astronomer in 1967, she now knows what it's like to be a female media figure. People want to photograph her, but they want her to unbutton her blouse a bit.
Did they push her to the front of all the group photos until everybody in the background was out of focus?
They're literally asking her measurements.
Oh, yeah.
She discovers neutron stars, and the first thing people want to know is cup size.
Yes, of course.
When really they should be wanting to know
what was her cup size?
Orbital velocity. Yeah, weirdly, the article
that's all we care about.
The article complaining about this does not actually tell me the answer.
Well, and she looks exactly like my mother did in 1969. She looks like a science person.
She's got the Far Side glasses with the frames that go up at the end.
She does.
She's cute, but in kind of a tweedy, authoritative way.
She has a lot of hair pulled back into a sort of uncombed bun.
She's a button-up sweater.
My mom, exactly 100%. And as a result, I'm in love with her.
This is a super important discovery because it lets us study for the first time how the physics of neutron stars might work. Interestingly, the particles inside a neutron star don't act the way any other matter does. The high gravity means they act like what we now call nuclear pasta.
Huh.
Because
why do we call it that?
Because the shape can vary, much as the pasta aisle of your supermarket will have different shapes. Like some neutron stars, the particles will glob up. The matter will glob up, and those are called gnocchi neutron stars.
I was about to say.
Sometimes they will kind of coil like helices, and those will be called, I guess...
Spirochetes?
Yeah, fusilli neutron stars. Sometimes they'll be in flat sheets, and those are your stellar lasagnae. So we literally use pasta as the metaphor now. The regularity, the fact that the pulse is... this very first... LGM-1, which now has a longer acronymic name.
Not exactly a Little Green Man 1?
No, we now understand...
Probably not a Little Green Man 1?
No, we now understand the phenomenon which is happening here, which is that as the star rotates, beams are coming out of both ends of it like a lighthouse, but the beams do not always cross us. So if you imagine a lighthouse light passing ashore,
if the lighthouse is also rotating crazy fast and millions of miles away.
Exactly. So, we're seeing the pulse at 1.3 miles a second, but that's just as it whirls by us. And what that means is there's plenty of pulsars out there that are just not happening to whirl through the plane on which Earth is located. So we don't see it. But even so, we've now found hundreds more pulsars and pulsar candidates, and the regularity of them, they are metronomes. Like the first pulsar they discovered is still beating with that exact same beat to the 100 millionth of a second.
Now, have I read, or am I making this up, that pulsars are used as timekeepers?
Yes. You can do lots of things with them. They are moving relative to us as they blink, which means you can use them to measure cosmic distances.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Very accurately. You can definitely see, because they blink so reliably, you can definitely tell if anything around is disturbing them, gravitationally or otherwise. For example, the first exoplanet ever detected from Earth.
It was detected in relation to a pulsar?
Yes, basically it was passing through the shadow, the lighthouse beam of a pulsar.
How perfect.
The first material evidence we had of black holes, beyond just theory, came from studying pulsars. We've used them to test Einsteinian physics, general relativity, and in 2016, you may recall the, what was it called, LIDO? Was that the name of the LIGO? Yeah, the LIGO Observatory. There's one in Louisiana and then one here in Hanford, Washington, that found the first evidence of gravitational waves, which Einstein had predicted as a consequence of general relativity back in 1916. And on the 100th anniversary, we were able, using pulsars, to actually see these ripples in space-time for the first time. And of course, Einstein had been discredited many years ago, and he's dead, but now we finally know that he was right all along about all that stuff.
I hope they say that about me. It's true that when you think about it, looking out into space and trying to there's nothing that would aid you in investigating relativity more than if you had little clocks
where you know the exact distance and you can measure the time to the 100 millionth of a second.
And they're like widely spread across the whole universe. So
this is the evidence of the existence of God.
Wow.
Or perhaps Dr. Manhattan.
Well done, Dr. Manhattan God.
That he has laced the universe with these perfect little watches that we can see floating. In fact, that's what Carl Sagan used them for. We've talked about the Voyager Golden Record. The Voyager Golden Record controversially contains directions to Earth.
Oh, right. Don't do that. Too late.
Which Stephen Hawking has warned against because he's afraid of the LGM invasion.
Right.
Not anymore. He's passed on. But while he was alive, his teeth were just chattering because he was so worried about the invasion from aliens.
When Stephen Hawking is worried about a thing, I worry about it too.
So you're worried about like sidewalk curbs?
I'm worried. Oof.
No?
Oof. I thought you were going to say, so you're worried about worms eating you from the inside?
Yeah, exactly. So on the Golden Record, the directions to Earth are given in terms of Earth's relative, or the sun's relative position to 14 conveniently located neighborhood pulsars.
Right. Except pulsars that are as viewed from Earth.
Right. That's the tricky part.
So if you were 100 light years from here, those pulsars they're going to be flashing at you in a whole different way.
We have to assume that whatever whatever alien race has the breadth to capture V'ger, also can understand, also has a great geographical database of pulsars and even ones that are not necessarily visible from their homeworld.
But you would need to have been here. So if it's a map to here, that requires that you have been here.
No. They can calculate with math which pulsars we could see.
But they would have to know where we were.
Not necessarily, because...
But if they're looking at a sky that has 100 more pulsars than we do because of just where they're situated, and some of our pulsars aren't visible to them because pulsars are directional.
That's true.
They're going to be looking at a bunch of pulsars, and how are they going to be able to tell which ones we can see?
We're going to have to assume they've seen some of ours with their multitude of probes, because they don't have to be near us to see our pulsars. They just have to be somewhere between us and the pulsar. But
the rate at which a pulsar, the rate at which we detect it is conditional on where we're located relative to how it's rotating. The same
that's true.
pulsar could be flashing to them
At a different rate?
Because
there must be some way to take into account. You think Carl Sagan screwed
Carl
up?
Sagan and I are going to go round and round when we're both sitting at St. Peter's foot or wherever you sit.
Yeah.
Where do you sit? Do you sit at his foot?
You sit at his foot.
It's not St. Peter though. It's somebody else.
Nope, it's St. Peter.
Oh, okay. Whew.
All the good go to St. Peter and sit at his
St.
foot.
Peter's foot.
And all the evil go to Satan's hoof.
Right. So I'll sit next to Sagan for a little bit. I'm sure a lot of people want to talk to him.
No, he'll be in hell. He's a secular humanist.
Yeah, that's right. True.
In 1970, so this is a huge game-changing thing for science, this discovery that there are these impossibly regular little blips out in space, like that Pink Floyd album that would blink for a while on the at Tower Records until the battery died. It was called Pulse. It was called Pulse, I think. But in and you can see why, given all this amazing stuff about the universe, you can see the appeal of prog rock, honestly.
For sure.
Like the fact that that there are these crazy rotating lighthouses in space sending waves across the universe to us.
It makes me want to take an extremely long guitar solo in 11/17 time.
It makes me want to hear some amazing Rush drum break. In 1974, given the enormousness of this discovery, Anthony Hewish wins the Nobel Prize. He shares it with one of his other colleagues, who was a faculty member at Cambridge with him, who had also done work on pulsars. Jocelyn Bell, now Jocelyn Bell Burnell, is not a recipient, despite being the one who helped lay the cable and the copper wire, and the one who first saw the pulses on the chart, and insisted when Hewish thought they were just noise that there was something there.
So she discovered them.
And yet the Nobel Prize goes to her boss, and her male boss.
What was his initial experiment of laying all this copper wire out in the field? What was it seeking? Was it just like, let's tune the radio to the sky and see what we get? Or was he looking for something?
He definitely was not looking for this. This was an unsuspected byproduct of whatever kinds of cosmic ray. He probably wanted to turn into a supervillain. That's what I
So
assume.
the discovery really was the thing that was prizeworthy, and the story is that even though once Jocelyn Bell saw it, or she saw it and was dismissed, she had to make a case for it.
She did.
So it was not just that it was seen by this.
She was not just the one who happened to be the eyeballs on the chart at the right shift.
While they were all looking for it.
Yeah, this is some Andromeda strain thing.
Aha.
Like
so
she did real science here.
It was her discovery.
It was her discovery, and yet she's left off the Nobel Prize citation and off the check, the giant check that Ed McMahon and the King of Sweden bring you.
On behalf of all Earthlings, I say harumph.
And when she, and somebody races to her office and says, "Did you hear? Did you hear? Hewish just won the Nobel Prize for your discovery," because she's now a full faculty member somewhere.
And everyone in her community knows the truth.
Well, they're hoping that she'll be pissed, and in fact, she is quite philosophical about it.
I see.
She says, "Look, that's just how it works.
Right.
The full professor gets the credit. The doctoral candidate staff is assumed to be appendages of his or her, but let's be honest, not usually his, genius."
There are an awful lot of presentlings who listen to this show who are in this category of either full professor or doctoral candidate.
Appendage.
Or appendage. And so I'm sure we're going to get a lot of confirmation of this.
I kind of wonder how the culture has changed. Because even though Dr. Bell has gone on the record numerous times, Dr. Bell Burnell now, has gone on the record numerous times as saying, I have nothing against the Nobel Prize Committee. I don't feel I got shafted. Science is collaborative, and I was the PhD candidate at the time.
Right. I
was the degree seeker, and the degree seeker does not share in the glory of the discovery. But
is she being noble, or is she, no pun intended, or
she can't be Nobel,
or is she accurately describing the truth that and it would be equally true in a gender blind situation?
I think certainly her three other male co-authors on the paper did not get mentioned as well, but I think the Nobel Prize does have a woman problem, and I think she knows it. If you look at, until 2018, No woman had won a Nobel Prize for physics. Only 2 had ever done it, and nobody had done it in over 50 years. There's a 50-year...
seems unlikely.
There's a 50-year gap where no woman did good physics.
That just seems unlikely.
Well, it seems unlikely when you look at specific cases of who did not win. The famous case is Rosalind Franklin, who did a lot of the work for Watson and Crick. It's just like the Civil War. We can't remember who the good one was.
Right, Watson and Crick, both of whom ended up selling their Nobel Prizes
on eBay
to fund the Confederate Air Force.
Well, that's what you got to do. The Confederates don't have hot air balloons yet. Rosalind Franklin had done a lot of the legwork and a lot of the actual science that led to the helical structure and was always left out of headlines. In this case, her getting left off the Nobel Prize medal was not an oversight. She had passed away 5 years before, and Nobel Prizes are famously never given posthumously. That's why the year Gandhi died, there was no Peace Prize. It's a way of saying we would like to give it to Gandhi if only he hadn't made the mistake of being shot.
I see.
But there are other examples. Esther Letterberg, with her husband, discovered the lambda bacteriophage, important work on how viruses infect bacteria. Interestingly, her husband won a Nobel Prize. She did not. Manhattan Project scientist Chien-Shiung Wu helped disprove the law of parity, a very important finding in quantum mechanics. Her 2 male co-authors shared the Nobel Prize. She did not. Lisa Meitner did all the experiments that led to nuclear fission. And yet Otto Hahn alone won the Nobel Prize for, quote, discovering nuclear fission.
Were they working together or were they working independently? Was it going to be a shared prize?
They worked together. And often the Nobel Prize is not given to collaborators. It's given to people working continents apart and maybe even decades apart who collaboratively did the most important work. And so they get glommed together. That's not uncommon. It doesn't have to be. Do you know how in movies when the written by credit, if it says which way did this go? If the 2 writers are joined by an ampersand, they collaborated on a draft, and if they're joined by the word and,
they work separately.
They wrote 2 separate drafts that then got synthesized by someone. It's kind of the same way where Nobel Prizes can be given to ampersand or and collaborators.
Now, when we think of the Scandinavians, when we think of the fuzzy and democratic socialist Scandinavians that run the Nobel Committee.
The friendly, stylish,
long-limbed,
blonde pine decorating Scandinavians.
When we think of them culturally, we think of them as being egalitarian, as being politically progressive. At what point have they had to confront the fact that that you can still be a dyed-in-the-wool patriarch, even if you are a liberal, democratic, socialist hippie?
Well, this is a phenomenon that, it's a punchline today, this idea that a man will say something, or a woman will say something in a meeting, and nobody will hear, and then 10 minutes later, a guy will say the same idea, and that's when the CIO is like, by Jove, Glenn.
It's a punchline, but it's also demonstrably true.
It can be shown. There are clinical studies showing this. And the funny thing is the discovery of this actually dates back to 1870. It's named the Matilda effect after Matilda Gage, an activist, abolitionist, and suffragette. We're merely soldiers. We're merely soldiers in petticoats.
Suffragette.
It's called the Matilda effect after her. She described it like almost 150 years ago.
It's named after her, but she's the one that described it.
Well, it was only named after her when it became, when people did academic work on it in the 21st century. But we now call it the Matilda effect because we found her describing this effect, 150 years ago.
And she's a suffragette activist, so it's not like she's standing up in a boardroom going, what if we put more corn in cornflakes? She's actually describing the experience of being a women's rights activist, and no one would listen to her until a man said it.
And I love that it's the Matilda effect, because that's also the name of the Roald Dahl book about a little girl who nobody listens to because she's a little girl, right. You know? Her awful father is always like, shut up, you're a girl. What do you know? I guess there is an analogous, more gender blind one called the Matthew effect, where people...
Why is it more general blind? It's got a boy's name?
Yes, it's like hurricanes. 1 year there's the Matilda effect, and 1 year there's the Matthew effect. No, this one is not gender related. It's related to fame or status, where the same idea out of a marginalized person will be ignored. I'm not sure why it has to be. Oh, I see. It's called the Matthew effect because of the parable of the talents in the book of Matthew.
It's like when I put out a hilarious tweet and it gets 100 faves, and then you put out a totally lame tweet and it gets 1,000 faves.
No, it would only be that if I stole your joke
and you
got the
walk
same.
in here all bark, 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 bark.
That's the Ken effect.
Yeah, the Ken effect is right.
When I do a mediocre tweet that gets... one more example, just so people don't say I'm leaving her out. Nettie Stevens actually is the scientist to whom we owe the sex-linked, the understanding of the XY chromosome system. And yet Thomas Hunt Morgan won the Nobel alone.
Has the Nobel Committee recognized these oversights and made any attempt to correct them over time?
I mean, there's no retroactive Nobels.
Right.
I feel like actually, I don't know much about the science involved in awarding the 2005 Physics Nobel Prize to Donna Strickland. But I wonder if she is the kind of scientist who could easily have been ignored 50 years ago. If you want justice for Dr. Bell Burnell, just last year in September, just 6 months ago, she was awarded the Breakthrough Prize, which is $3 million for her work in discovering pulsar.
That's a lot more than the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, but it's like a nouveau riche thing where it's called the Breakthrough Prize, and it sounds like it's sponsored by Breakthrough.com.
Oh, right. It sounds like an energy drink.
It actually, yeah, exactly. You've won the Monster.com Science Prize. No, it's actually funded by Yuri Milner, who's kind of the Russian Mark Zuckerberg.
Oh, right.
It's also funded by Mark Zuckerberg himself and Sergey Brin and a bunch of Silicon Valley guys, but it's kind of a Russian tech billionaire ego Nobel thing. But in clearly an attempt to kind of realign the scales and undo a past injustice from Nobel Prize history, they made Dr. Bell Burnell one of their first recipients. They do 3 categories every year. And when she was interviewed, she was very candid about the challenges, even though she says she doesn't have a bone to pick against the Nobel Committee. She was very candid about the challenges she faced as a woman scientist for much of her career. Just, the Matilda effect of not being listened to, being marginalized in the media, not having, with motherhood and family being important to her, and yet not having childcare options. She clearly is aware that she did not have the same career or the same easy career that a male radio astronomer might have had.
She did become the president of the Royal Astronomical Society.
It's pretty good.
So she has excelled well beyond what your typical astronomer would.
What Anthony Hewish did.
Yeah, right.
What's up with the Royal Astronomical Society having a woman president before the United States? Come on, man.
Seems like that is not uncommon.
She's also been very candid about how some of the advantages she had as a woman, which is kind of interesting. By the way, she has said, when she got this $3 million prize, she was just gobsmacked. She said, I'm not an affluent person. I don't care about buying a Porsche or a Ferrari. The whole thing is going to fund scholarships for women in science.
Great.
So that's where the Breakthrough Prize is going. But she has said that she actually owes a lot of the success of her work to being a woman in science. It's kind of an interesting take on the... both things. There's the Ginger Rogers backwards and high heels thing. She thinks that knowing that she had to work harder, or the thing that African American kids in America are often told that if you're young and gifted and a minority, you have to be 2 or 3 times as good
as just your average dummy.
As the white guy sitting next to you in class. And she said that was absolutely true in her work, specifically with pulsars, that the reason why she was so confident when she showed Hewish those results is that she had gone over it 4 or 5 times because she kind of had imposter syndrome.
Right.
She at that age, she was like, when I saw only 2 women in my department, how could you not feel that I don't deserve to be here? So she was always just paranoid about making mistakes and being caught out. So she had gone over that stuff with a fine-toothed comb. Like, not only because she was worried about that, but because she knew that she had to do her job better than the other male grad students.
Right. If that had been me, I would have been like, oh, I think I saw something beeping. I don't know. Somebody get me a beer. Finger guns.
That's why. Yeah, that's why. Is that why they kicked you out of that program?
Well, that's why I was denied my Nobel Prize. And that concludes Pulsars Discovery of Entry 1008.IS4713, certificate number 52246 in the omnibus. Futurelings, in the unlikely event that social media still exists in your era, I can only assume that all of you are either Nobel Prize winners or are frustrated scientists that have been denied your credit for your incredible discoveries. Because who else could survive the coming cataclysm if not scientists? Sentient scientists. Can you imagine, Ken, if scientists became sentient? I feel a little.
What if they had
feel a little stoned?
What if scientists were like emotionally
What if
more in touch with
scientists
themselves?
became self-aware? What would that portend?
They would dress better, right?
I don't know. Can you imagine a world in which scientists dress better?
Carl Sagan's turtleneck looked pretty good.
How would you be able to tell them apart from normals? If you are a scientist and a good dresser,
please send us pictures of you in your nicest outfit.
Email us pictures of yourself at theomnibusproject@gmail.com in your best science outfit. You can communicate with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at John Roderick and at Ken Jennings. If you have an antidote for my current feeling of kind of dissolute confinement stonage. So fucking
You're just
stoned.
Just thinking about all those big stars out there, just talking to us.
Beetlejuice.
Just sending us messages every second.
Beetlejuice.
Makes you think.
Please go to our Futurelings Facebook page where people will be talking about this episode and so many others.
Probably not this part of the episode because they have already stopped listening.
And if you'd like to send us a super, super dense star particle,
send it media mail or it'll be very expensive.
I'd be very careful about it. If you had it, I wouldn't give it away. But if you do have it and you want to send it to us, send it to P.O. Box 55744, Shoreline, Washington 98155. If you are an extraterrestrial being, I have just given you a map to our P.O. Box, but not to ourselves.
Here are the nearest pulsars to our P.O. Box. Somebody went to, I can't find the letter, so I don't have the name. Somebody went to an estate sale and got us these old-timey ties, and these lovely ties.
Oh, those are cool.
Do you wear wide kind of Barney Miller ties?
I would wear the blue one if you'll take the plaid one.
There's no way I'm wearing the plaid one.
Oh, look at that one, though.
This kind of golden brown one.
Yeah, the wheat-colored.
With the brown and the beige and the brown and the beige.
You're not going to wear any of those, are you? First of all, I've never seen you in a tie that wasn't one that you got as like
a Cracker Jack box?
Well, no, you get them that match your shirt and pants, right? Don't you? When you buy a suit, doesn't it come with a tie and a cummerbund?
That's when I'm doing green screen work.
Pocket square.
It's my Andy Serkis. I actually usually wear narrow. Even as a kid, I didn't like wide ties.
Yeah, you're a mod. You wear those tiny little ties. I do wear fat ties.
But you're a rocker. I wish I had the... Thank you, whoever sent us this, because your note is here somewhere, and I can't find it. Reb from Conway, Arkansas, sent us a roll of pictures from his grandfather, who was in the Merchant Marines in World War II and after.
Cool.
And he doesn't know where these are. He thinks maybe Guam. They were developed in Yokohama, so his grandpa was in Japan after the war.
This is immediately after the war? I mean, there might be pictures of him with my great uncle.
Was your great uncle in Guam?
He was in the Merchant Marines. Oh, look at this. Oh, these are wonderful little.
Oh, yeah, look, this
photos.
is the Guam Service Center. They had two stores, one at Tamuning and one in Piti, so we don't know where he got these developed, but...
so did he
Kodak lab
marry
in Guam.
A woman from Guam?
The photos are full of Guamanians.
Oh, look, there's Quonset huts.
Yeah. We'll put some Quonset hut pictures up on the video feed on Patreon, which I'm sure you were about to talk about, John.
I was about to talk about it. That's That's patreon.com/omnibus project, where you can help support the show and see all of this great addenda material. Some of these are really terribly framed photographs, but here's a great picture of a whole row of Quonset huts with a nice little yard out front and a white chain fence.
Has that replaced your Tractor Power magazine as your new porn?
I don't know, but I kind of do want this picture in particular framed. It's just a picture of a Quonset hut.
Well, I mean, that's the thing about getting pictures developed back then.
Yeah.
Like today, you can delete the badly framed stuff the second you take it.
Right. You wouldn't know. Here's a guy in cool sunglasses sitting in an army jeep.
He sent us the giant negatives as well.
Oh, these are medium format photographs.
Yes. Huh? So the negatives are the same size as the print. So we can make all the copies we want.
It's astonishing, to look through these and then realize that all of these people are dead.
Maybe not the kids.
No, the kids are dead too. Everyone in these pictures are dead. I'm just gonna call it. I'm just gonna call it. Look at those kids. You can see they're dead.
Guan was blown up in the H-bomb testing. All these people are gone. Listeners, from our vantage point in your distant past, we are as extinct as the people of Guam. We have no idea how long our civilization will survive. We hope and pray that this catastrophe we so fear may never come. If the worst comes soon, if the meteor hits while we're in the middle of our quarantine, then this recording, like all our recordings, may be our final word. But if Providence allows, we hope to return to you soon for another entry in the Omnibus.